Welcome back to Rooted and Rising Through the Beauty Industry, where experience meets ambition. I'm Josie, and I'm a hairstylist and brand educator with 10 years of experience in the industry.
And I'm Quinn, a fresh stylist navigating the early years of my career. We're two hairstylists at different stages, one seasoned, one fresh in the game, here to have real conversations about growth, mindset, and the evolution of being a stylist.
Whether you're behind the chair or looking beyond it, we're here to explore the skills, opportunities, and mindset shifts that help us rise together.
Let's get into it.
Welcome back to Rooted and Rising Through the Beauty Industry. We're your hosts, Josie Aldrich and
Quinn Mattingly, and we're so excited for today's conversation. We're joined by someone we're very close to and someone who's built something incredibly impactful behind the scenes of a beauty business. And that is Alfonso Martinez, who's the CEO of the Color Bar here in Sacramento, and full disclosure, our employer. So before we dive in, we love to start each episode with a quote that resonates with the theme of the episode. So Alfonso, our guest, we would like to invite you to share a quote that resonates with you.
Well, first off, hello everyone. Thank you for having me, and congratulations for launching this amazing project, and the best of luck to both of you. And as far as the quote, I actually have two. The first one is, how you do one thing is how you do everything. Okay? That one has been applied to my life. You know, I heard that quote about 3 years ago, and when I first heard it, I was resistant to the true message. Right. And I was resistant because I started asking myself, okay, like, is it really true how you do one thing is how you do everything? And the truth is that the more I thought about it, and now like through my mental, spiritual, and just professional growth, I was like, yeah, it really does. Because, you know, the moment you start cutting corners on one thing, whether you realize or not, you're going to start doing it in other things, you know, and that goes for personal and professional. So that one's a nice quote that I recently, you know, been thinking about a lot and that I apply to my life.
I agree. I think that I can completely relate to the resistance to it, because if you look at my bedroom floor, I would like to think that that is not a reflection of how I do everything else in life. But if I really take a step back and think about it, it seems about right.
It was a hard pill to swallow at the beginning. But, you know, the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, you're right. You know, I can't just be doing things sometimes. You know, if it's either I do it all the time or I don't. That's my, you know, new philosophy of life here.
I love that. And then you said you had a second quote for us today too, right?
This one actually, it's nice because I don't know if you heard of Tim Grover, Michael Jordan's performance coach. I had the opportunity to be at one of the conferences where he was at, and he ended his speech with this line, which to me, it was like just dropping bombs. He says, if you think the price of winning is too high, just wait until you get the bill for regret.
Mic drop on that.
Yeah, so this one, the way I perceive it, the way I take it is like, you know, just be willing to take risks. Sometimes it can be scary to make the move, but just know, like, if it's something you're really thinking about on a daily basis, just go ahead and try it, and you won't regret it. You know, even if things don't go out your way, you won't regret taking the chance.
I love that quote. I definitely resonate a lot with it because I left corporate America to become a hairstylist. And obviously this podcast is kind of a big risk for Josie and I, just in terms of, you know, time and financial investment. But at the same time, I think we agree with you. We'd rather see what it feels like than always have this on our hearts and our minds, never do it. 10 years later, be like, what the heck? Why didn't I just try that? Why didn't I trust myself enough to just give it a shot? Because the price of regret it sucks because you can't get it back.
100%.
Sometimes taking a risk can feel so vulnerable, and that is what feels so heavy in that moment. To your point, Quinn, starting this podcast, and I'm sure our guests feel similarly, and Alfonso, you can speak to that, is vulnerable, sitting here with a ring light on our face and microphones in our hands. It can be really intense, but why not give it a shot? Even if it's a couple of months, and you decide that's not something that lasts for you, at least you know the difference between doing it or not doing it in the first place.
Also, nothing worthwhile is going to be easy. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of times, especially when you make new choices or, you know, explore new avenues in your profession, things will be hard. So sometimes, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I felt like giving up and question, like, am I doing the right thing? But the reality is, like, it is the right thing if you really feel it in your heart. Like, continue or make that choice and chances are you won't regret it.
I agree completely. I think too that this is the third quote, but I actually can't officially quote it, so it's going to be a summary of it. But I think that I read somewhere once that our dreams are kind of programmed into us to draw us to places that we're able to use our skill set. So our natural skill set will pull us to what we want to do. And I think it's important to like find that drive, right? Follow that drive, follow that feeling that you're talking about internally. If it feels right in your heart, it is right, even if in the moment it feels a little chaotic. And I really do like that. I do want us to jump into our highlights and lowlights of the week. My highlight this week is that the Present Time, which is the new Alkaline Demi line from Davines, is coming out. I'm so excited about it. I've had the opportunity to play with it for about a month and a half now, and I'm loving it. But it officially launched today, the day that we were recording this podcast. And so now it is available for people to regularly order, and I can't wait to get it in salon. It's going to be great. My low light this week is not even necessarily a low light, but more of an area of growth that I am just working through. And sometimes that growth era can feel a little bit mucky in the moment. But right now I'm really trying to get a grasp on how extension pricing can be simplified for the consumer. There's so many things that go into it. And I know we spoke with someone the other day about this exact same topic of it's really hard to put all of those different variables into a easy to understand package for clients. And I think that would have to be my low light, is navigating that. Quinn, what's your highs and lows?
My highlight is I'm also very excited for the Present Time. I got to be one of your models for it, so it's currently on my head, and I loved it. So that was just to piggyback on your highlight. But my actual highlight, and something that I'm really excited about and proud of, is I've been getting faster behind the chair. I am, if you can't run, walk, if you can't walk, crawl, and I feel like I'm in between that like walk-run phase in terms of my time spent behind the chair and my ability to finish services quicker, which is really exciting. So I actually need to talk to Lorena and adjust those times, so when they book I can actually fit more services in my day. And then my low light is I'm realizing that I need a new blow dryer, and that sucks because they're so expensive, and I've already purchased a new one. But anytime that I help another stylist at the salon blow dry, they always finish before me, and Josie's like, I hate to tell you this, but I think it's your blow dryer, because like you're good at blow drying, but
your skill set is there. I think it's a tool issue, unfortunately.
Right. So we are gunning for a Dyson sponsorship.
Please.
I mean, I'm probably going to just buy one, but yeah. More to come. Alfonso, I'd love to hear your highlight and low light from this week.
My highlight is that we're finally getting a warehouse this week. I pick up the keys on Wednesday, so that's very exciting. And then the low light is it was a stressful week because we currently don't have a babysitter. My mom usually helps us with taking care of my two boys. So this week she's out on a trip, and it's been stressful. I had to pick up my kids early at 11 a.m. I had to pick him up and bring him to the office and try to distract him by drawing or with tablet, unfortunately. But yeah, that was pretty stressful to have your kid at the office.
Neither Quinn or I have kids, so we can only imagine. But like, if I had to bring my cats to work with me, I would be freaking out. I'd be freaking out. Jack would be on everyone's lap. Iris would be, I don't even know where. I can't even imagine it. And like, I know it's different. I know kids are not animals, but that's all I can compare it to. And holy guacamole. And I know there's a lot of people listening that can also understand that dilemma.
I mean, it's somewhat similar. I bring Luna to the office sometimes, and sometimes it's more work than it should be. Like having to walk her or having her pee at the office. And
Luna is a dog, listeners, just in case.
Alfonso, so your highlight is that you're getting the keys to a warehouse, but me and Quinn understand that context, and we'll talk about it more today for sure. But what are you getting a warehouse for?
We're been at an office where we handle our online business, and we had a small marketing team here. We've been here for 3 years, and we're at a point where we've outgrown the space. We're moving mainly, with the idea of growing our online business. So yeah, I mean, right now we have so many boxes in this office. We can barely walk through the aisles. So yeah, we're very excited about this new phase of our online business. It's been quite the journey, and yeah, I'll be happy to tell you more about that.
Can you give an overview of what that online business is?
Sure. So we sell Davines products online, and we started that back in 2020 through the pandemic. It was during the time where the salons had to close, and it was kind of stressful because we, as business owners, we had to figure out how are we going to make some money to not just pay our staff, but pay our bills, right? So, yeah, it was a time where, I was even resistant to the idea of closing the salon. Back then, when Lorena brought up the idea of closing, I was like resistant. I was like, no, we're not. We're not closing, right? So,
Do you mean the closure that had to happen through the COVID pandemic, or one of the two locations that you owned at the time?
what I was referring to is the closing because of the pandemic and how serious things were getting, and I just didn't comprehend at the time how serious things were going to be. To me, it was something that was just something that's going to be here for a few days, and we shouldn't worry about it so much. But that obviously turned out not to be the case. And again, when Lorena brought the idea of closing, I was like, no, we're not. Let's continue as business. I don't care. It tells me to close. Just resisting to the idea because as a business owner, it's just a shock. That was a shock back then. So anyway, good news is we did close. That was the right thing to do for a period of time, which at first we thought it was going to be only 2 weeks. And then that turned out to be like a span of like 6 months, if we combine all of the months that we did close. So during that time, I was like, okay, how are we going to make more money? And one of the things that we did do was explore the idea of selling product online. So luckily, back in the last quarter of 2019, we had the idea of setting up our online store, not necessarily to sell Davines, but to sell like gift certificates and small color bar items like sweaters, t-shirts, things like that. So in a way, we had already set up the groundwork, for what was coming. Looking back, that's the way I see it. We started with gift certificates, then we moved on to some of the product to our clients, and we kind of grew little by little. We started only by selling within the Sacramento region. Then we grew to the Northern California, then to all of California, and eventually we're like, let's just go nationwide.
That's wild. Anyone who's listening has probably lived through 2020 and has experienced it and knows the craziness of that time frame, and honestly the scrambling that everyone in multiple industries were trying to do to just stay afloat. I was just reading a book the other day about another salon owner who was like, I'm just not paying rent. Like, she just refused to pay rent because technically you were still supposed to. So it must have been terrifying being in that position. And I'm so impressed with you being able to make the most out of a really crappy situation. Have you ever read the book The Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell?
I have not.
You would really enjoy it. I would highly recommend it. It talks about how these outliers, these standouts like you and the Color Bar with their online presence is partly hard work, but there is an element of luck and being in the right place at the right time. And you kind of spoke to that about like in the end of 2019, you were already kind of flirting with the idea of working online and having that storefront, but it sounds like you're one of the lucky outliers.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a team effort. Again, we started out with reaching out to the clients. During that time, a lot of clients did reach out to us and told us like, I would love to help you. How can I support you? And all those things. So that was really nice of the clients to reach out to us. Also, looking back, like I can see myself and see the resistance, and like that's a pattern of mine, right? Really early when there's some changes that we go through, I do notice some resistance, but once I just process it and let it go, then we just run with it and we adapt. It was very difficult times for a lot of salons, hairstylists. I do remember seeing a lot of resistance, not just from me, but also from a lot of professionals in the region. I can see how it was very difficult for a lot of people, but also looking back, it's one of those things that, again, you start connecting the dots. It's like, this is why we did this, right? Like, I mean, not only did we set up the store, but also looking back at the way we've been running the salon, like we've been strictly employee only since we founded the Color Bar. And looking back at how beneficial that was during the COVID times, right? Because our staff was able to not deal with the headaches of, unemployment or like, getting some money in the meantime where they're not able to work. I think that process was a lot easier for stylists than it was for independent people. That was one of the things that also connected the dots. Like, now it makes more sense.
I think that it is such an interesting era of the beauty industry. I do want to bring us back a little bit further. And Alfonso, do you mind telling us a little bit about who you are and what your life was prior to entering the role of being the CEO of the Color Bar?
Sure. For those of you that don't know me, I just want to say I am bald. I don't have any hair.
I was like, I wonder what's going to come out of his mouth. For those of you who don't know me, I am bald. It's incredible. I was so sorry. Go ahead, Alfonso. That is important. That is important.
The thing is, right, this is actually tied to the early days, right, when I started telling people, like, yeah, I co-own a hair salon, and they were like, well, you don't have any hair. I'm like, I know, my wife is a hairstylist, right?
You're just going to beat them to the joke before they bring it up for you.
I changed my Instagram bio to, like, I got no hair, but I play the hair game. So I'm like, kind of got to own it now. That's what I've been doing for the last 15 years. So going back, I was born in Mexico. I was raised there till I was 7. And then most of my life, I grew up here in California. Looking back, I mean, I can see, again, how it all makes sense. My mom was a hairstylist back in Mexico, and she had a hair salon at her house. She kind of turned the first floor into a hair salon. When we came here to the U.S., she also provided hair services, around small towns, Newman, California. Shout out to Newman. And I didn't think much of it. I did all my school in Newman, and then I came to Sacramento when I went to Sacramento State. Shout out to the Hornets as well. Stingers up. By the time I graduated, I actually knew I was going to be an engineer. I got inspired to be an engineer mainly because of my brother. He came to Sacramento State as well to study electrical engineering. So in a way, he did inspire me to go into the engineering world. I did like math, in a way, technology, and it made sense. I'm like, that's the route I'm going, and computers are the future. So that's the route I chose going to college. And, I had a lot of fun during my college years. I had that feeling that I knew I was going to own a business. I just didn't know what exactly. So when I was in college, I did set up a few businesses. I did provide web development services to businesses, and I did that for a few years. By the time I did graduate, I had already had a few internships done, and I had a few jobs lined up. And I did work as a software engineer for about 9 years. And during that time, Lorena had also, by the way, Lorena's my wife, hairstylist, co-owner of the salon. Lorena had also completed her career. She had already explored the hairstyling world. However, I remember she didn't see that as a full-time job just yet. And that was until, we both graduated. I did my engineering. I love engineering, by the way. I'm very passionate about. I've always, one of the things I do realize is, like, I've always been passionate about everything that I do. A few years after we graduated, Lorena did express she wasn't happy with her job. And I just couldn't relate because I've always loved what I've done. So after maybe a couple of years of her, like, saying the same story and telling me how much she wasn't happy with her job, I was like, just gotta quit. I'm not gonna quit your job for you. Told her to pursue something that she loves and not to worry about the bills. And that's how we got started with the Color Bar. She did obviously get the courage to make the move, quit her job. That was actually, I'm sure it was really hard. But I also can see how providing that support for her and tell her, like, you just do what you love and don't worry about, the financial stuff. I'm sure that did help her a lot as well.
Something that we find really interesting is talking to people about their transition periods. And we have already had the pleasure of having Lorena on our podcast. If you haven't listened to her episode, it's a great one, and I highly recommend you going back and listening to it. But I'd be curious to hear how you felt during that transition period. What was it like on your end watching Lorena make that transition?
I was very happy for her. To me, I was like, again, it's because I've always done what I love. It was just seeing her not be, like, stressed or, like, hating Mondays. I think that's when like, okay, you got to make a change. If you hate your Mondays, definitely got to make a change. It was really nice to see that in her. And it was definitely a transition period and make some adjustments financially. funny thing is, when she went back to school, I lived in the Bay Area, and she had to move to Sacramento for some time to go to her beauty school. And can't remember the exact time, but maybe let's say a couple months after she quit her job and was in beauty school, I actually got laid off. Looking back, honestly, I don't remember being like ever stressed or worried about like financial things. I was like, okay, I'll just find another job. I didn't worry about it so much. And that was actually the opportunity for me to just come back to Sacramento and, not be her in Sacramento and me in the Bay Area. So that was interesting how that turned out. And we lived at my sister's house for a few months until we got our own apartment. And it wasn't hard for me to get a job, luckily. I'm very lucky in that sense. And then she continued to go to beauty school. And once we made the switch, it was easy, it was fun. To me, it was exciting. Probably Laura might have been more scared for making that change. But for me, it was just exciting times. I actually like thrills and like, you don't know what's gonna happen. Those things are very exciting for me when you just don't know what's gonna happen.
It seems like throughout all of these changes, you had this inner confidence that it was going to work out. You didn't really know what it was going to look like at the end, but it feels like you've always had like this just confidence, this knowing that it's going to be okay. Would you say that's kind of who you are?
That's how it is. Like, I know we're going to be okay. It could be that self-confidence, like, we're going to figure it out. Like, it doesn't matter. We've had so many ups and downs in business or even personal life that we know we're going to figure it out. Or at least I know I'm going to figure it out. Like, I tell her, don't worry about it. Just let me handle it. If I propose something, just go with it, right? So I've always had that. We started our business in 2010, so those weren't easy times to start a business. And we've been through the COVID times. That wasn't easy to be in business. Sometimes you do get those like reminders of you're gonna be okay at the end of the day.
There's she's an author, and I think she has a podcast. Her name's Marie Forleo. I don't know if you've all ever heard of her, but she has a book titled Everything is Figure Outable, and that's sort of like her catchphrase. And I definitely find myself repeating that mantra. I don't necessarily have that quiet inner confidence. I'm definitely more of like a panicker with a poker face. You might not realize I'm panicking on the inside, but I sure am. The mantra I repeat to myself is everything is figure outable, and I've really come to learn that that is true. And I feel like, to your point, if you lean into that, really cool things can happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's a mindset, and I honestly don't know where I got it from. But I'm just lucky that I think everything's going to be okay. And if I can spread that, like if I can provide some type of like comfort to the people around me, I'll do that. Like you have to take all the responsibilities or all the worries so that the team is less stressed or that they can focus on what they're good at. That's the way I see things as a business owner. I have to make sure like, I don't pass the stress or these problems onto the team. And there's many that do come.
I believe it. And you and Lorena both do a really good job of, I think you're transparent enough with us to where we know what's going on and you know that we're smart people and can probably figure things out on our own. But also like you don't let it trickle down to us, the stresses of Lord knows what you're dealing with on the business side. I want to ask you, when did you officially leave your job as, would you call yourself a software engineer, computer programmer? And then when did you officially come over to be like all in with the Color Bar?
So it was around 2015 when I was working for a company in Rancho Cordova. I was working as a software engineer. I was there for a few years and I did enjoy the job for quite a while. And it came to the point where I started questioning like where I spend my time. By that time, the Color Bar was already going. I had been working on the Color Bar like since we founded it, but more on the side, and I had started to question, okay, like where should I put more of my focus on, right? Because obviously I do enjoy this engineering job, but I also have this business that is growing and has so much potential. And I started asking myself, do I want to take the risk? And I was like that for probably a few months, and then I decided to take the leap of faith and just went for it. Well, actually, a little before I quit my job, I started looking for a second location because at that time we were only at one location. And as soon as I quit my job, I was like, okay, this is a good time to open a second location for the Color Bar.
That's wild. Why? What made you think that was a good time to do that?
I was like, okay, I have more time. I think it's a good time for me to open a second location. We have good growth. We can grow our team. And yeah, I was like, let's add more things to our plate.
You and Lorena seem similar in that way because Lorena got out of beauty school and was like, screw it, I'm opening up my own salon. You quit your job and you're like, screw it, we're opening up at a second location. Let's go.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, sometimes, again, you get like those moments. It's not easy to be a business owner. So you do get those moments of like doubt where you start like, did I make the right choice, or is this the best thing to do? Especially if you have some family members that have the traditional route of like, especially my family members that have good jobs, stable jobs, and I'm here having a roller coaster type of profession as an entrepreneur. There's so many ups and downs and less stability. But at the end of the day, I have that self-confidence to know I'm going to be okay. I'm going to try my best, and it's fun.
I love that. And it's impressive, the fact that your mindset and your sheer hard work and your ability to figure it out has gotten you both so far to have, a successful salon, as well as paving the way to have an e-commerce situation that you figured out on your own. And the Color Bar has just grown in such impressive ways. That's honestly why I wanted to work here as a stylist. This was the only salon I interviewed at. I don't know if that's good or bad. Maybe I should have looked into more, but I really didn't feel like I needed to. I could tell from the outside looking in, like, these people are comfortable taking risks and they're comfortable figuring things out. Like, that was very obvious to me. I know you're a systems guy. So what systems or strategies would you say have been the most important to help the salon and the e-commerce side scale so sustainably?
The systems have evolved over time. One thing I can tell you that did help us grow a lot was knowing how important the online presence was. And this is early on, right? When we started, again, 2010, there was some amazing salons in Sacramento. I don't even know if they exist anymore, right? But there was these amazing salons that kind of looked up to, that was like goals, right? But I realized that they were resistant to even having an online presence. They're like, during that time you think like, oh, well, it's not needed. I already have my loyal clientele. Why need a website? And I knew, having my technology and engineering background, like having a website is so important. So that's one of those things like, okay, one thing we know for sure is we need an online presence. I created the website when Lorena was at the solo salons, and people will go to our website and call a salon and think that we're actually a full-blown, like, bigger salon than just one studio. So that was something, looking back, that was like, okay, I always had that bigger picture. I knew online presence was really important, and transitioning over to like once social media started becoming bigger, we hired a marketing guy, a video editor who ended up working with us for 5 years. He was amazing at what he did and creating the content and videos. That was actually unheard of for hair salons. I can't think of many salons that had a full-blown marketing team. We really had our video editor. He edited the videos. We had a graphic designer. To one point, we did grow our marketing team to something that was just, it's not normal for us to have this team as a hair salon. So I knew the importance of it, and I think that has helped us over these many years. So
what is actually really interesting about how you have scaled your marketing is, I'm originally from Michigan. I'm sure everyone is sick of me saying that, but I am originally from Michigan, in the salon that I used to work at and now still from time to time get to go back and work at. The manager there would tell me regularly that one of her biggest headaches of running the salon in Michigan was their stylist knowing that we had a marketing department, because she was like, Josie, at least once a week someone comes in and is like, well, Josie's salon has a videographer. Well, Josie's salon has and the manager would always be like, I don't know what to tell you. We're not getting a videographer. Start taking content. But it is funny how stood the Color Bar apart from any other salon that I've ever heard of. Really, it is very an interesting avenue that you guys decided to delve into.
Yeah, and it's been growing over time, right? Like initially we did very little with it, We didn't necessarily know what we were doing. We knew we had to take some content. We just didn't know exactly what. And luckily the guy that, shout out to Brandon, he came in, he was very creative with the content, and he grew his skill set over time. He became really good at what he did. By the way, he had to move cities. He moved down to the Fresno area, and he doesn't work with us anymore. So now we're in a transition period where we don't have a marketing person or content creator person, but we're definitely going to get back to that. So, but again, it's emphasizing how important it is.
Yeah, we miss you, Brandon. If you're listening, when you have that and then you don't have it is when you really understand the value of what you did have once it's gone. But one thing that's really interesting, Alfonso, is you shared that you built a website for Lorena when she was just operating by herself in a solo salon suite. And just because people they didn't have websites, right? Hair salons didn't have websites, especially someone who's, this is in quotes, is just in a studio. I don't mean it that way, but I think a lot of people will think that way. Like, I'm just one gal in a studio. Why do I need this? But people would call and think that you're this massive salon, and perception really is reality in that sense of, if I'm a consumer and I want to get my hair done somewhere, I'm generally going to look online, right? I mean, things have evolved and changed since 2010 when that started, but I can only imagine how many new clients that Lorena and the Color Bar were able to capture solely because you had the foresight to create that online presence and let people know that you existed.
Yeah, it definitely, again, I mean, I was to the point where I was answering phone calls. Like, that's another story, right? Where we had this website, Lorena is still at the solo salons, and either she was busy or she was on a trip. And that was on my engineering job, you know, and we had this website where people could find us, and somebody had to answer the phone. So honestly, I will step away from my desk and I was like, thank you for calling the Color Bar in my engineering job. So that was very, again, like looking back, that was a fun part of business, but it was so important back then to think of it not just like, oh yeah, we're this small, you know, one chair studio. I never actually looked at it that way. I was like, we're a salon. We're, you know, bigger than what it seems, just that one chair. So I always thought of it bigger.
I think that's such a good takeaway. I think it's very easy to minimize yourself, right? It's very easy to minimize who you are and what you bring to the table, but something that Alfonso is great at is not allowing that to happen and really visualizing yourself as a full-fledged whatever, in this case a salon. It wasn't just a studio, again in quotes, but I think that is how you continue to grow into that space too, is believing that you are already the big player in the game, so show up as that. That being said, the Color Bar is a huge player in the e-commerce game, especially for Davines, and it's definitely something that sets the Color Bar apart, and we have been able to benefit tremendously as a salon from it. How do you feel like you were able to create this thriving online retail business, so much so making us the #1 Davines account in the world, from my understanding, which is really crazy?
Pause here, mic drop on that one. The salon in Sacramento, California, not a massive major city, is the #1 account for Davines in North America, just in terms of volume of product. Like, I don't want to glaze over that. I want to like underline, underscore 3 times, highlight it, circle it. That's huge. Like, that's crazy. And that's where we work.
I mean, even listening to you say it, I'm like, wow, that's so true. We forget about that sometimes. Like, we're so busy with the work that we just forget to look back and see all of everything we've accomplished. Like, the truth is, we're a small salon in Sacramento. You know, you will look at us and you wouldn't think that we've accomplished everything we've accomplished. It's not, you know, what we've done is not easy to do. So it's been exciting times just expanding the business from in-salon just retail, which, by the way, it's very important. But we've also expanded our retail business online, which has been super amazing. Couldn't have done it with the great team that we have, but also with the partners, Bassett, Salon Solutions, and of course, Davines. They've been great partners, and they give us the opportunity to offer the products that many people love, you know, and make it easier for them to get it in their hands and, you know, use it at home. So
I think what's really cool is, you know, obviously Josie and I are very familiar with the story of how this came to be, but you and Lorena saw an opportunity, not just with, you know, the COVID-19 pandemic and clients not being able to come to the salon, so they needed an alternative way to purchase their products. But for a long time, my understanding is Davines was not readily available unless you were going through a salon or through the brand officially. Like, you couldn't buy it at Ulta, you couldn't buy it at Sephora. So it was one of those harder to get things. So you all saw an opportunity and were like, well, let's make it more accessible. Like, we have the relationship with the distributor. You have the background of being able to set up a website in the e-commerce And to your point, like, you're a dot connector, right? You were able to connect those dots and see the opportunity and go for it. What was that like?
I can tell you, probably the idea that for us to sell product online came a few years prior to the pandemic. And we actually had conversations with people at Davines to see if we can do it. At that time, yeah, it was a little more difficult for us to get the ability to sell Davines online. But during that time, we decided, yeah, it's not the right time for us to do that. We like to do things the right way. We obviously have conversations with our partners and tell them, you know, this is what we're thinking. What do you think? During that time, it just wasn't a go. But after the pandemic, you know, again, we had those conversations again. We got to the point where we started growing so fast that we had to have those conversations with executives at Davines, because that was the reality. Clients didn't have a place to go to get the products that they love. So a lot of them came to our website. We grew pretty fast in our online business. So we just kind of changed our strategy a little bit, not to be so aggressive on the way we do online sales. We had to just adapt. That's the way I see it. It's adapt our online business. And it worked out at the end. We continued selling product online. We still do that. And I believe everyone's happy, you know, as far as like, you know, our partners, our clients, and yeah, it works out pretty well.
I think it's funny to think about you having a foresight into something that can be so beneficial, obviously for us at the Color Bar, but for Davines too. You were making major sales, which definitely benefits them, but I do think it is funny to think of this little salon in Sacramento having foresight that goes further than this massive hair care brand. Really, you know, you showed up first to the table being like, what do you think? And I understand they like to control where their product is coming from. There's diversion. That could be a whole podcast in itself, right? But I'm happy to see that you were able to circle back to that conversation. And I know we have heard the stories of these executives calling you guys, and it just is, I can't even imagine getting that phone call. I'd be like, us? What do you mean?
Yeah, it did feel like at the moment I was like, wow, we're going to have a phone conversation. You know, again, we're a small hair salon in Sacramento. So you still think of us like in that sense, because in reality, we're thinking about people in other countries that know the Color Bar, which is crazy to me. People in other like states or countries that tell us, you know, that they admire us or they look up to us. And it's really nice to even hear, or even difficult to comprehend, that there's other people look up to our salon.
It's kind of like who, little old me? Like, this is me speaking as you. I'm the I'm the number one volume sales for this global brand. Like, what the heck? And to your point, you are not even in a warehouse yet. Like, as we're recording this, you are not in a warehouse. You're in an office space with narrow hallways and small rooms. And your fulfillment folks are our wonderful receptionists who were learning as they went, right? Like, we remember Black Friday, and you had record-breaking sales because your online presence and your SEO is so good, and the sales you were running were so good, and you were just drowning in sales. And it was like, hey, if anyone has a break in between clients, like, can you come back some shipments and send them out? So I just think like that peek behind the curtain, because people probably see, they see the website that you've done an incredible job on. It's intuitive. It's easy to order from. They get their shipments quickly. I would never think like y'all are running around sometimes like chickens with heads cut off because the internet went down and the printer's not working.
Honestly, yes, that's the reality. We figure it out as we go. There's a lot of things that we can still improve on. For example, like not being understaffed, and especially the holidays where there's so many orders, it can be really stressful. We get pallets of product and we don't know where to put it. Like, those type of challenges can be stressful. But it's, again, at the same time, it's part of the business journey, you know, and it's exciting.
And I like the fact that none of that has stood in the way of like building this massive e-commerce empire in addition to running the salon. I think that's really cool that it's easy to fall into the trap of like, oh, well, once we get a warehouse and hire 10 people to send this out, like we'll really go gangbusters. But you and Lorena have never let those things become an excuse.
It's been a challenge to balance things out. You know, we love the in-salon aspects, you know, providing the hair services and doing the in-salon retail, but also we're managing with the online growth. Again, we're also learning as we go. We've had some amazing years and we've had some big milestones. I'll just share, we hit 7 figures in sales.
Congratulations. Team effort for sure, but that's incredible.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
For our stylists listening, you had said this earlier of that retail is still so important. There's been this narrative going around the industry that retail is no longer important, and honestly it has a lot to do with big e-commerce platforms, not us, but fill in the blank, you know what we're talking about. And it can be really disheartening to salons when it comes to retail. We really have leaned as a salon, right? We've leaned into that retail, and as a stylist of this salon, we have gotten so many benefits from our brand, like from their partners because of it. And I think that I want to highlight that, because if you go all in with your brand of choice, us, it's Davines and Bassett, you can fill in the blank of whatever makes sense to you. That brand wants to help you too, but if you don't commit to them, they can't commit to you. Thank you so much for putting the work you do, because we've been able to do so many things. We've gone to Italy, went to Germany, we've taken so many amazing classes in-house and out, and without emphasizing the importance of retail like you have both online and in store, we wouldn't have had that same growth personally as a stylist too.
Yes, and I can tell you, as a business owner, it has helped us so much as a business, providing the product to the stylist or the clients. A lot of the back bar, just to give you an idea, we've spent very little money on back bar products. We're able to do this because of how well we do the retail, or how well we accumulate the points to get some of the benefits, the perks of selling product. We've spent little money, and I don't even have a number of how much we've saved just on back bar because of retail.
It's got to be exponential, because I know back bar is such a heavy cost for salons and stylists as a whole, and it's always tough to be able to provide what you feel is the best for your client at a heftier price point. And I don't know if it's Davines or if it's Bassett, but whatever the reward system goes through, like it is such an incredible aspect of it. If we have salon owners or stylists listening that want to look into boosting their retail sales, do you have any actionable steps that they can do?
I can tell you both from a business owner perspective, but also the client, as a business owner, just know, not forgetting about retail, or putting some effort in retail will help your business on the back end. For example, the back bar. Also, on the client side, it's going to help you so much because you're offering a better experience to the client. You have somebody that, it's in your chair, that you're providing a great service. You want to also be able to give them the product that's going to make their hair look amazing, or, maybe the color will last longer, or maybe the haircut is going to style better, right? The hair is going to look shinier.
You're talking like someone who has hair.
I wish. I'm kidding. I don't wish.
Josie can make that happen. She's a great extensions artist.
Let me gather my thoughts. It's just very important as business owner to understand why it benefits you, right? And once you understand the why, it's a lot easier to do it, right? Maybe you're struggling because you don't understand the why. So really know, and feel free to ask people that you know, or feel free to message me. It says okay, help me understand why it's going to help my business and how it's going to help me spend less money. That's one. Number two is, if you're even questioning this, you could probably reach out to Lorena, or maybe one of the amazing stylists that we have. How is it going to help me create more loyalty for my clients, right? Those two are very important. Those two can really drive your business. It's important to have it in salon because you're going to be able to offer, again, a better experience for your client. Your clients come in, they're spending so much money, and you're spending all this time to offer an amazing service. You do want to, part of the experience is for you to send them home with great products, and not, have them figure out on their own, or buying something maybe that you don't recommend. Those two alone are very important. It's just going to help your business. And really it comes down to understanding the why.
It seems like the message is similar to what you shared of that resistance that you initially feel, but then once you kind of get over that hump and understand, it does make it so much easier. To your point, Josie and I, if there's a salon owner out there listening, like Josie and I speaking as stylists, of a salon who has obviously this huge retail presence. To Josie's point, we get a ton of education. It makes us better stylists, which makes our client experience better, which then builds more loyalty. So they keep coming back. So it's this like cross-pollination relationship. Also, we have a lot of folks who I think learned about the Color Bar because they were buying online, and they might not even been a client of the salon. They weren't sitting down in the chair getting their hair done there. But if they're local, they could pick it up in store and they'd come in and they'd get to see the salon. And because Lorena has built such, this focus on hospitality and customer service, even if you're not coming to our salon to be a client, you're going to have a great experience. So I've turned in, people who've come to pick up product into clients, and then vice versa. We have clients who are now buying online from the Color Bar and then telling other people to buy online. If they have a sister who lives in San Diego and she tried the Davines shampoo in the shower while she was visiting, oh my God, where can I get this? And she's like, girl, buy it online from the Color Bar. So it's like this cross-pollination and this like magical cycle that keeps happening, all because of retail.
To your point of people all over the world that you can share it with, again, we get it, you're from Michigan, but I have multiple people who purchase through the Color Bar online that want to support me as an artist and want to support the business that I'm working for. And it's so nice as a stylist being able to shoot that out to an old friend I used to dance with in high school, or even like a third cousin who I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be great for your hair. And it's honestly an amazing resource. I am not I like to go out and party kind of a girl, but if I was, it'd be nice to have the website to be like drunk in the bathroom being like, yeah, girl, get you some leave-in conditioner. Here's our link.
So funny that you say that, because I distinctly remember drunk girls in the bathroom, right? In college, like there's so many memes about like, if we could all just treat each other like we were drunk in the bathroom together at a bar, the world would be a better place. Sorry, no, this is a weird tangent. Stick with me. I've always been a hair product girly, even before I was a hairstylist. It's part of why I became a hairstylist. I distinctly remember this interaction in the bathroom of a bar with this girl who had amazing hair, ton of volume, and I was like, girl, what do you use? And it wasn't Davines at the time, but she recommended it to me, and I became loyal to that product for years and years and years. It's just so funny to think, like, if we could have said, like, I use curl moisturizing mousse from Davines, get it online at thecolorbar.com or .me, I would have been doing that. So I don't know, maybe we need to start going out more and have those moments in the bathroom.
Girl, you're not going to get this grandma out. I'm so sorry.
Same. Maybe a happy hour. Sorry, that was a really strange tangent, but I want to pick your brain, Alfonso, and ask you this, because you've lived through so much evolution of this industry, and it continues to evolve so fast. Economic conditions are interesting at best. They're kind of volatile right now, right? From your perspective, what can salon owners and stylists do, or what do they need to be thinking about right now in order to stay ahead?
It's funny you say that, because I was just having a conversation with the rep about business and challenges and things that are upcoming, like us getting a warehouse and just some of the challenges we're having, right? So I said a line and she started laughing. It was like, I just learned to expect the unexpected. We kind of have to adapt. I don't know what's coming. I think I have an idea of what's coming, but I also can't worry so much about like things that haven't happened yet. So one of the things you can probably do is just be flexible with the changes. My advice to you is don't resist. I've already done that. It's more painful than it should be. Just adjust. There's a lot of things that we can't control, and definitely life and business will be a lot easier if we adapt with the times and changes in economy, environment, product supply, anything. Another thing that I think it's important and we're diving more into is using technology like AI and how important it is for businesses right now, and especially the beauty industry, something we can apply to. So I can tell you for our business, it was a little bit scary, in all honesty, to even think about the potential and how much AI can change the world. I know that it will. I just don't know how yet. I have an idea, but I know it will change the world and how we're doing things today. At our business, we've already been using AI. I'm encouraging the person that does the marketing for us, make sure you become the best person to use AI. Like she currently does email marketing or copy for us. I said, let's forget about that just title. Now we're gonna change your title to AI prompt engineer. Instead of looking at AI as something we're competing against. We're going to look at it as our best friend. You know, it's important for us in our business to start using AI to become really good with AI, and I also will encourage a lot of hairstylists or business owners in the industry to start applying it. One of the cool things is I already see a lot of our hairstylists that are applying it, whether it's to come up with content strategies or come up with like captions. So it's actually very cool to already see people in our team that are using it and making the best of it. We're also using it for the business as a whole, trying to become really knowledgeable with AI.
I think that is so, so important. I think that it's very easy to get stuck in that resistant stage when something new comes out, technology specifically, but it is something that is not going away. AI has been here for a little while now, and the best thing you can do, like Alfonso said, is to adapt and to see how you can best utilize it. I see AI honestly as the next Google, the next iteration of it. Like, I'm 31, so when I was a kid, I had computer classes that taught me how to prompt Google effectively, right? There was ways that it was like, use a minus sign if you don't want this word included. Don't use a full sentence when you're Googling things. There's better ways to Google. Now Google has changed too, but there was rules. Where we're living in right now is just the rules haven't been set yet on how to prompt that AI. I think that's great that you're having your marketing girl focus on becoming an AI expert and seeing it as a tool rather than a hindrance. What are ways that she has been growing in her AI expertise?
AI, I mean, still evolving over time, and I think still really early, but the things we're able to do are mind-blowing. One of the recent examples is ChatGPT recently updated to generate images. You can actually upload a photo of a product or a photo of the salon, and you can tell it, like, tell me ways that I can improve this setup or generate an ad for me to promote this product. It can do that now. Also, she's using it to plan emails, or email campaigns, and she's using it to write copy or to improve her copy. And she's using it, I'm sure, in many more ways than what I'm mentioning right now, but those are just examples. And the one that got me really excited is a new way that we can start generating images, because that's a huge improvement in AI. We haven't tried video, and that's actually something that we will get into. But yeah, it's very exciting to me. I read up on it as much as I can, but I'm seeing how the world has evolved even when the internet started becoming popular, and now we're seeing another phase of like AI. It's important for us as a business and for individuals, professionals, to really learn it and make the best of it. Think of it as your friend and not as an enemy or competitor.
To that point, what's really interesting is AI is going to level the playing field for people because, we were so lucky. We had a really robust marketing team. We still have a marketing team, but, we don't have the videographer. But a lot of, I'd say more salons don't have that than do have that, obviously, but you can use AI to fill in that gap, like you said, with generating images. So if people are open to exploring it and taking advantage of the resource available, it can really level the playing field. If they don't have the resources to hire someone, if they just have a little bit of time and, like you said, learn how to prompt it really well, they can use it to their advantage. And one thing that I have heard from people is they feel like AI is cheating, like using ChatGPT, you're cheating, which I guess I understand in a way, but at the same time, I think as long as you are transparent, like you are, obviously emails are being generated through AI and you're comfortable sharing that. I think we need to reframe a little bit because it's something that's available to everyone now. It's free. There's a level of ChatGPT and a lot of AI that is free for folks that I think maybe a couple years ago it could be perceived as cheating because it was kind of like a dirty little secret that not everyone knew about. But to Josie's point, it was like Google back in the day. It's here now. This is the new iteration of search engines. It's just getting smarter.
Again, with my personal age, I remember being in elementary school, and when we were working on reports or learning how to research, we had to go down to the library and use encyclopedias. To your point of the cheating concept, someone could have thought as Google as cheating. Of like, well, you didn't go and make hard copies of the page of the Komodo dragon to make your to make your report. But is it cheating, or is it just using every tool that's available for you? And I know AI can be controversial, especially when it comes into an artist space. And again, we can have a whole episode on this, but I do think that digital art was a huge change for people, just using an iPad, using an like Apple Pencil. And the artists that have continued to thrive are the ones that have adapted. And I just see this as that next iteration of it. It's really scary, but we ask you to bring in a little bit of Alfonso energy and push through that resistance and make it figure outable.
It's interesting you say that, and it's a very good point. I can see how people can see it as cheating. With that said, one thing that we do need to be careful about is like get lazy. Don't get lazy and just have ChatGPT like figure everything out for you. Please use it. We want to use it on our end, but also we do have to put our heart and soul per se into GPT so that it knows what we want to get out. You know, on the emails that we create, on the messages, or whether it's captions, however you use it, make sure you give your intention, make sure like you give the feeling, make sure that's still there when you're generating automated messages. That's very important. And don't get lazy. Make sure that you give it still that feeling that you want the reader to have.
That is probably the biggest takeaway right now for stylist, salon owners, really anyone to understand, is you are only going to get as much as you give to any sort of AI resource. I think we can all relate to stylists. We're really excited to be able to have it, for example, for Instagram captions and take that off our plate. Stylists are generally not copywriters, but I always tell Josie, like, I can smell a ChatGPT caption from a mile away. There's just like certain dead giveaways. But if you know how to prompt it well and you give it examples of your authentic voice, it doesn't sound like a robot wrote it. It sounds like you wrote it. And then I'm sure you guys are this way, like, don't just copy and paste what it spits out. Like, you still need to go in and tweak and make it sound authentic. So thank you for pointing that out, that it's an amazing resource, but you are the driver of it. You have to tell the car where to go and how you want it to get to that place. Don't get too lazy.
That is the conclusion of our AI segment today. Again, we could go on forever about it because it is just such a major topic. But I have one more question for you, Alfonso. If you were to go back in time and visit a version of you that was still stuck in his resistant era, what would you tell him?
Know that things are going to be okay, and just try your best. You know, as long as you try your best, the outcome doesn't really matter. That's the way I see it. Like, as long as you try your best, that's where the joy is. You know, maybe things won't turn out the way that you see them. Maybe things will. Hopefully they will, right? But the joy is in trying your best.
I feel like I always take away such great lessons from our guests, and I really try to like internalize it, because I think that we can get so caught up in the day-to-day of just trying to get on to the next thing and grow and explore. But I really appreciate your perspective of the joy comes from, just figuring it out. Don't forget, like, that's where the good stuff happens.
It kind of is like that trend that's going on right now where it's like, oh shoot, I almost forgot this is the point. And people are posting videos of time with their family, time with friends, laughing, enjoying good food, not just the hustle of it, right? And that's where the joy is. It's in the everyday. It's in that hustle. It's not always the end result. That is where the joy is.
I can tell you, because we've accomplished many of the milestones, big milestones. After we accomplish a milestone, I mean, it's exciting to feel and see that we've done it. But then the next day we're like, okay, what's next? So again, it's like, it is nice to achieve everything you mind to, but also it's the everyday that's the fun part of life.
I agree. Thank you so much for sharing everything you did with us today. I think it was a really, really insightful episode for not only us, but for our listeners as well. We are going to wrap on this episode of Rooted and Rising. Thank you so, so, so much, Alfonso, for sharing all of that with us. We will have all ways to connect with him in the show notes, but you can definitely connect with him and the rest of the Color Bar team on Instagram at the Color Bar.
If you found this episode helpful or inspiring, please hit follow, rate our show, leave us a review. It really helps us out. Speaking of AI and the algorithm, it likes that. It likes the engagement. You can also connect with us on Instagram at Rooted and Rising Beauty. Beauty, and then my handle and Josie's handle will also be in the show notes. You're welcome to connect with us, send us messages. If you would be interested in being interviewed on our podcast, please reach out to us and we will follow up with you on that. And until next time, keep growing, keep creating, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Thank you for hanging with us on Rooted and Rising through the beauty industry. Our goal is to build a community where hairstylists at every stage feel empowered, inspired, and supported. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to follow us wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss a new one.
And if you're loving the show, we'd really appreciate it if you left a rating or a review, share it with a fellow stylist, and join the conversation on Instagram at Rooted and Rising Beauty. It helps more stylists just like you find us.
Until next time, keep growing, keep learning, stay rooted, and keep rising.